about that. We decorate to our own personalities or something baby and fun. And I remember the pictures that I actually put those together not long before I talked, because I was sitting kind of listening. Okay, what messages do you want me to put forth here? And my example was a musician coming, someone that had been a musician through many lives and music was their life. And they came in, their nursery was, I think it was a football nursery that I showed. It was all sports and everything. And you wonder why the baby's crying all the time. And then I said, well, how happy would they be if this was the world they came into and there were guitars hanging on the wall and records? And if we can either open ourselves up to it or meet with somebody that can do a reading for us when we're bringing a baby into the world, just again, it's that the term that keeps coming to my mind is lay out the welcome mat. I know it's so exciting. What's really exciting about it is, so my history in this life with knowing my dragon really only dates back a few years ago. But now that I'm writing the book and my journey and I'm channeling my dragon's messages, I'm learning so much more about our history together, which is really, really exciting. But
you got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. So wonderful to be with you again. And please remember, if you're liking the shows, to like, subscribe, leave a comment, share, all that good stuff. And you can find more about the shows on my website. Well, I have the beautiful and divine and gorgeous Jill Stein Clarkson to introduce you to today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here with you.
I met Jill on the Wisdom Conference that Geraldine Orozco put on, and I was listening to Jill's talk and I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. I want to delve more into this on the show. So I asked Jill to come on the show. So do you use both names, Stein Clarkson or just Stein?
Pretty much Jill Stein.
Jill Stein. Okay.
I am Jill Stein Clarkson on Facebook. But Jill Stein is usually how you're going to find me.
Okay, cool.
Maiden name, had it my whole life.
So Stein is your maiden name or Clarkson?
Stein.
Stein. Okay, and Clarkson's your married name.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, beautiful. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Jill. Jill Stein is a prenatal medium who connects with souls who are preparing to come to Earth. She connects them with their parents and grandparents and others who can help them with their transition into the Earth's physical plane. Jill helps families understand their desires of the entering soul, things like life goals, personality attributes that will help them form a strong bond before their physical connection. She has also traveled to Africa, working with dragon energies to heal the land, which we'll go into and talk about as well, because we just did a little breath before we came on the camera and dragons were everywhere. So that was cool. And is a private pilot. Jill has a foundation that supports aspiring pilots and single parents with their education and life endeavors. She also works as a business coach with Women Rocking Business, growing businesses for over 30 years. There's many facets to Jill, as you've heard, and we're going to find out about some of them today. But what I loved about your conversation at the Wisdom Conference, you were talking about speaking, with your clients and speaking to the incoming soul, of a baby, which I've done many times with clients, and I haven't discussed it a lot on the show. So I thought, this would be so great to talk about on the show. But before we do that, let's hear about your awakening. Like, how did you know that you had these abilities? When did all that happen? Or have you always known?
No, I'm not one of those people that's always known. Honestly, my awakening started after I lost my father, tragically, when I was almost 30. And I was really feeling like I wanted to be closer to death and I wanted to understand it more. And I became a hospice volunteer. and I started reading. I actually read a book by a woman called Echo Bodine, who I now get on with Zooms with and do psychic practices with. But she had a book, Hands That Heal. And I read it and it just lit me up. And I started doing hands-on healing, a lot on animals. Actually, I'm an major animal lover. And it just grew from there. And I ended up reading more books and taking psychic development classes, and grew and grew and grew. And the prenatal mediumship and the dragon work, they all kind of have their own stories of how they came into my world. But I'm honestly not one of those people that, from a young age, spirits just came to. I'm one of those people that desires it and wants it and practices and asks for it, and just growing every day. And it's so exciting and so much fun.
Beautiful. Well, let's hear about how you started connecting with incoming souls, because that's a bit of a thing with you. That seems to be a bit of a specialty, because we speak a lot about on the show connecting with outgoing souls. Actually, I just got an email this morning, a beautiful healer in Queensland. Her husband's been sick for a while, and I knew as soon as she sent out an email that he was going to transition. But like most people, she was like, please pray, we can get over this, we can conquer this. And I knew that he was on his way out. So we speak a lot about speaking about outgoing souls, but not incoming souls. So how did it start for you?
Honestly, it started in another life when I was young and learning how to do this kind of work, and my life was cut short. I just found that out just a few years ago. But now what happened for me is, as a hospice volunteer, I was considering being a death midwife, because I was so comfortable in the hospice environment and finding that I was longing for that kind of work, helping people with their outgoing transition. And as I was training and learning and developing my skills, somebody mentioned prenatal work, and my whole body just lit up. And so I explored more, and I just knew immediately it was a direction that I wanted to take. And so I started putting myself out there for that kind of work. And it's not as different. They're not very different things. And for me, I really would love to see the world put as much emphasis on supporting the incoming soul as the outgoing soul. Because as I was saying at the conference, leaving is the easy part. In all honesty, you're going to a beautiful place. You're going home. You're being received. Coming here, it's not so easy. All of a sudden, you're in a tiny body, and it can be quite tragic. And you can't be heard, and your needs aren't always met because you can't communicate. You can't speak. You can't walk. And you came from a place where you could do anything. You were completely unlimited. So
I know.
What a thing for us to start supporting that journey, so that it's more magical coming in. And
I know exactly what you mean when I hear people say, when they lose a loved one, I want to know if they're okay. I want to go to a medium. I want to know if they're okay. I often think to myself the opposite way around. When a soul kind of incarnates into their family, it's like, I want to know if you're okay. How's it feel being squashed into a baby body? You can't talk. I always think. Anyway, I shouldn't laugh about it. But yeah, it is a lot harder, coming into this world than leaving this world. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So anyway, please go on.
So I've just been passionate about it. I'm growing my practice every month. It grows, and I'm doing more and more readings, and really passionate about supporting all the different areas that I can with this kind of work. So not just parents that are a family that's pregnant having a baby, but an adoptive family, because they don't necessarily get that physical connection. But if we can start helping them with that spiritual connection ahead of time, how wonderful would that be? And other members of the family, and then also doing some healing work. It's my goal to definitely do some healing work around miscarriages, stillbirths, abortions, people that are having guilt and suffering and grief, still helping them heal.
Absolutely. I remember finding out years ago, I was so confused about all this stuff when I was a young girl, when I was studying astrology, that the parental energy of your chart is not charting your birth parents. It's charting the ones that parent you, no matter who that is, whether it's a grandmother or an adopted parents or, you know, friends, like whoever parents you, that's what the chart is showing. And I remember thinking, okay. So yeah, we tend to think that only our natal parent, you know, people that birth us or create our, you know, the DNA connection is who our parents are, but it's not. It can be anyone
And
that parents you.
I love to hear you say that, because both of my children I did not give birth to.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I am right there and getting that and understanding that. And those are my kids 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're choosing all that from our broader perspective, from that spiritual perspective anyway, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us some of the stories of connecting to souls. What are they asking for? Well, there's just so much to this conversation, because, yeah, there are people that have had miscarriages and abortions. And do you get many people? I'm asking too many questions at once, but I've got a million questions.
I'm remembering them all.
I will, but I'll ask this and I'll go back to the first one. Do you get many people that come and say, can I connect to the soul of my aborted child or my miscarried? You know, because there's probably a lot of pain around that. But let's talk about people that are coming to you wanting to connect to the soul of the pregnancy. What are the souls saying? We'll get back to the aborted, miscarried ones.
You know, I've gotten so many different fun things. Sometimes it's about like what they're going to be doing in life. You know, this is what I'm going to do. I've had an incoming male soul tell me, you know, I'm going to make some huge strides in medical research. And it's for something that the human race doesn't even know is a problem yet. And that was a couple of years before COVID. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
He would just be little tiny still, just a couple of years old, but just life goals. But then also just some really basic things, like I really want my nursery to be organized, or just things that are going to help make them comfortable when they first get here. I love hearing about those kinds of things, because that's when it's kind of difficult when they really can't communicate other than crying. And also, I just had another thought from one message that I love that I got was about that the labor was going to be very easy, because this was not his first rodeo. Those were his exact words. This is not my first rodeo. The labor is going to be easy. Tell my mom not to worry, which was so wonderful, because she was a first-time mom. And just the power of suggestion right there alone, to hear that, it probably made her have a great labor.
Okay. So what he's saying is, I don't need a difficult entry. But so there is so it sounds like having a difficult entry into the world, there's a benefit for that, for an incoming soul. That's what I'm hearing. I think,
you know what I've heard, I've definitely gotten the feeling and heard stories about the birth process and how important it can be towards the beginning of a life. But for this particular soul, he had come many, many times and didn't need any of that, and just needed to come in and do the thing and be here. And he didn't want his mom to worry. I think that's what it was mostly about. He didn't want his mom to worry.
That's so funny, because my dad always said about my birth, because I was the second child, that I just like, bang, I was out. And because in those days, you know, fathers weren't allowed in the room. So they were going out for dinner. And I think mum started going, water broke or something. And then, so he rushed her to the hospital, and they were all dressed up, ready to go out for dinner, some shishi dinner or something. And the doctor said, look, you go and enjoy your dinner. She'll be ages yet, you know, and come back after dinner. And by the time he drove from the hospital to the restaurant, I was done. Like, there was a message at the restaurant, you've got a daughter. So,
oh my goodness.
So I obviously don't remember that, but I remember him telling me that story. So that's really interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. Jill, what else? So much to talk about.
Stories. You know, going back to your question about when they decide not to come for some reason. And one of my first readings, actually, my mentor referred somebody to me when I was first starting out, and it was kind of like one of my first ones was one of my most difficult ones, but they were going to be terminating, actually. And Oh, what a precious reading it was, because she was very, very sick, the baby, and they knew it, and that was why they were going to be terminating. And at the beginning of the conversation, she was not really sure what she was going to do, but she did let her mom know that it was, even if she did not terminate, the pregnancy was not going to go full term. She couldn't stay. That body was just not sustainable. And she said, it's okay. At the beginning of the conversation, she said, I'll find my way and I'll find somebody. But by the end of our conversation, she said, you know what? I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for her. I want to wait for her, and I want to wait for her to become pregnant again. I really want to stay and have her be my mom. So how exciting was that, to feel like we could have one conversation and actually unite two people to the point where there's a new bond, and to have that soul say, you know what, this is my mom. I'm going to wait for her.
I had a client many years ago who had come, I can't remember, so many years ago, it's like over 20 years ago, but she'd come because she'd had a miscarriage, or I can't remember if she was pregnant the first time she came, because she used to come regularly. And anyway, I chatted to the little soul, the soul. It's not a little soul, but the body was little, the baby soul. And he said, you were like, to the mother, you were really unsure about yourself and being a mother, and you had so much fear around it that you were really sick and worried yourself to death. And so I just thought, well, let's just abort this body and I'll come back when you're ready. That's what he said, right? And she said to me, she looked at me, I remember she going, yeah, I was terrified. I thought, can I do this? Will I get this right? I was so unsure of my ability to be a mother. She was terrified. And so she had this miscarriage, and he said, I'll wait for you to figure it out and I'll be back. Anyway, she got pregnant again, and she must have forgotten that conversation, I think. And just before she gave birth to this child, I had revealed that it was a boy. And I figured she must have known that, because the last baby was a boy. And she didn't. She said, I thought this one was a girl. And I said, no, this will be the same soul. And he's coming as a boy, like he wants the boy form, and he's happy to come. And then he was born, and he was a boy, and he was this big burly boy. She came and, showed me. I've never seen this biggest baby. It was like he was only a month or two old. He was massive. But it was such an interesting conversation. He was just waiting for her to be ready, because she wasn't ready. And so the baby body aborted. Have you ever had anything like that?
I read a story about that I'd love to share, but this is a point. I'm so glad you bring up this point, because that's another thing that I really want to accomplish by bringing this kind of work to light, is having expecting parents understand that the souls are around. Yeah. And what's happening is affecting them, because, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people won't fight in front of their kids, but they'll fight while there'll be stress, and they don't understand that everything's being witnessed. Right. And so the story I'm thinking of is a soul that was a boy baby was coming. And this is from Cosmic Cradle. It's an amazing book. And they were fighting over circumcision, to the point where, it was a very big deal, awful, awful fighting. They were even like so bad that they were thinking of breaking up. And he decided to go and come back as a girl. So there was a miscarriage. And then when that soul came back, the next pregnancy was a baby girl. So it just wasn't a question. My parents are fighting about this. This is not okay. I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen. Wow. These are the parents I want. These are the two parents I want. They need to stay together. It's all part of the plan. And I'm going to make sure that happens. So, and wow. Yeah, and the chemistry, and people just don't realize how much is affected after conception. What is going on that affects the comfort of the incoming soul, and even the physical development of the fetus. The emotions and the chemistry. Yeah, all that energy, all that emotions going into the spiritual DNA, or the energetic DNA of the baby body. Absolutely. You can pick up your parents' fear and worries and trepidation, all that. You can pick up all that. Yeah. Even though the soul is not even in the body, it's still affecting the energetic structure of the physical form that the
you're going to be wearing, right? And that's going to affect you.
It absolutely is. And I think souls, they come in and out. They come in and out during pregnancy. Some of them come in and they want to stay in the whole time. Some of them are barely in at all. And then there's the medium between the two, but we don't always know. And I want to encourage people to lay out the welcome mat and just make it as wonderful in both journeys on either end, coming in and going out. It should be a beautiful experience.
Yeah, well, in truth, we're all coming in and out all the time because we're out when we're asleep. We're in now, we're out. So we're all in and out all the time. But so this sort of miscarriage journey there can be many reasons for it. There's obviously not one reason. There could be a reason that maybe, I remember seeing something in Friends. Was it Friends? Where one of the girls thought she was pregnant, didn't know. And then her friend had shown her a pregnancy test and it said negative. And then she saw her emotional reaction, right? And she was really sad that she wasn't pregnant. And then the other friend said, just kidding, it's positive. And she said, why did you do that to me? She said, I wanted to know your commitment to this incoming child. Like, you think you don't want it, but when you thought you weren't pregnant, there was this like, so often that can be the case with a miscarriage too. Maybe there is like, I don't know if I want this. I'd like my client, don't know if I can handle it. And then when the baby miscarriages, there's a new commitment made, like, I really wanted to be a mother or a parent, or so there's many reasons for it on both sides, right? Have you experienced that?
There is, and I also would want women to not feel guilty, because I'm sure there's a lot of that going on. I'm stressed. I don't know if I really want this pregnancy. I don't know if I'm ready for it. And then if a miscarriage instills those thoughts of, oh, now I'm sad. Now it's different. Now I'm grieving. Right. And they can have guilt and think that maybe they brought it on and they weren't welcoming enough. And everything just happens for a divine reason. And there's no reason for guilt. And they come back. They'll come back. I mean, and there's even souls that were considering coming in and then a pregnancy never occurred. I actually have a personal story around that was just amazing. I was meditating one day and a young man came to me, and this was not long ago. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. And I said, well, who are you? Why are you here now? And he said, my current husband that I'm with, we've been together for about 10 years, but we knew each other in high school. And he said, if you had stayed together, I was going to be your son. But we didn't stay together. And he was ready. And so there was even a little grieving around that. Because I said, oh my gosh, did I have a commitment? What happened? He said, no. It was just one path that we could have taken together and we haven't. So it's okay, but I still wanted to be in your world. So he said he's going to be my daughter's husband, who she hasn't met yet. So it's just, it was such an intriguing interchange, but there's so much fluidity and it's not all set in stone, and
absolutely.
We make agreements, but then things change.
Things change, free will. I had a client like that years ago too in Byron Bay. Friend, she was an older lady. Well, she was older than me at the time. And I did a session with her, and she had been grieving about some miscarriages that she'd had. I don't think she'd ever had children. But she was working as a nanny for this family, and she was very close to this family. And it came through from her soul that those children that she was looking after were the souls, if you like, of the children that were going to be her children. So she ended up parenting them and mothering them. But anyway, isn't that beautiful? I'll never forget that. And she was like, oh my God, can this be true? But it was the information. I think I took her into a guided meditation. I can't remember. I do so much stuff with people that came directly to her, And I just thought, wow, isn't life amazing? It amazed me as much as her to receive that information, that because she had grieved for so many years the loss of the children she never had. And there they were.
So healing. And it probably made sense in her heart when you said that. It probably clicked and made sense. And my goal is not to do readings for people. My goal is for people to learn to connect themselves.
That's right.
That's what we want.
That's what you want. Mm-hmm.
To open that line of communication and listen. And listen to the young children, and not just pass off the amazing things that they're saying as imagination. And there's so much wisdom that can be gained from this kind of a connection, knowing that it's on a deep soul level. And even before they speak, you can gain so much from the incoming souls before they forget. And
absolutely. And I've heard that every soul that's coming to the earth plane now is a fifth dimensional, like a higher consciousness, because we're shifting into a new experience. They're coming to experience that, and they're coming to experience the transition as well. I think you need to be a master soul to experience what we're going through on earth at the moment, right? I'm thinking,
gosh, you would think so.
So many babies. I'm seeing babies everywhere, babies. And I'm thinking, as a parent, having a child during this time is a brave decision, but gee, they're coming. They're coming in droves. And
it's a brave decision. But on the other hand, if we realize that the incoming souls are making that decision.
Right, exactly.
And as scary as it is for us as humans to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to bring a baby here and this is so scary, they know what they're getting into. They might not remember a few years later, and it might be really hard, but they know the lessons they're meant to learn. And that's why they're coming now.
Yeah.
And they're also coming to help. So we need to be open to letting them come to do their part in the ascension of what's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
And all this new age. And it's so exciting to be witnessing it. It's so cool.
I'm thinking about many of the young girls that I know that have had children. It's been an unplanned pregnancy. One friend said to me, she's got this delicious little girl who's just adorable. Of course, she never wanted children, and now all you see on Instagram is this little, every minute she's posting photographs of this little girl. I love that. But she said that she had this boyfriend overseas that was like, I want you to give me a baby. I want you to give me a baby. And she's like, I don't want to have babies. Anyway, the story goes that she fell pregnant and the baby came. But as soon as she was pregnant, the man abandoned her. Oh. And that was sad for her. But I was saying to her, this baby was coming and you were going to be the mother no matter what. And maybe that guy, even though he didn't want to have the commitment of being a father, he was just tapped into that decision. Mm-hmm. And she was choosing his genes for whatever reason. And it was all perfect. Yeah, it was hard because, being a single mom's not easy. He just ran away as soon as she got pregnant. He just nope. After insisting, give me a baby. So they're coming. They're coming whether you want them or not.
Yeah, I think there's even in the young kids, even the kids that are kind of coming through high school now and the elementary school age kids, there's just a difference. They're different. They're kinder. I think they're more open to spirituality, and it's so neat. It's neat to see all the changes in the human race. And there was another thing I was going to mention. And this kind of ties in, I know we're going to talk about this maybe in a little bit, but when I went to Africa, I went to the maternity ward at a hospital where we visited in the small town. And when we walked in, the women on the right were the ones that had babies, and the women on the left were the women that had lost their babies. And the people we were with were so mortified. Oh my gosh, they're in the same room. It must just be so heartbreaking for them. And that is not what I felt as I walked through that room. I walked along, I saw some of the babies, and I was on the other side, and I was making contact with the women whose babies didn't come. And there was just an understanding. It was not as much grieving as I think we experience, at least here in the United States. It's, a miscarriage is such a thing, but it wasn't like that there. There was just an understanding.
Wow.
There wasn't the heaviness and the sadness and the confusion. It's like they were okay.
They knew. Oh, it makes me cry.
They knew they were okay.
Wow. What about people that have aborted children? Have they come to you and said, did I reject a soul? I'm worried, do they come with guilt? Or
I haven't done a lot of this work yet. I'm just starting to open up to it, but I have worked with a few people, and nobody that was too terribly traumatized, more just did they come? Did they end up finding their way? Did they come? And one that I had did, as her grandson, actually.
Wow.
And very, very wonderful, evolved soul. Just, I got so much wonderful information from him. And so I think they find a way. It's okay. It's not this decision that it's heavy for us to make that kind of a decision here. But there's such an understanding when they're on the other side, and they find a way. If they need to come, they find a way. And if they need to be part of your world, they find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the heaviness and the guilt is the experience of the earth, the fear on earth. It's not the experience of an incoming soul, who's looking through all time and space, and it doesn't live inside time and space. It's not like they're tapping their fingers waiting. There's no waiting. There's just now. There's just the eternal now. It's hard for us humans to wrap our head around that, but
it's so hard to comprehend.
Yeah,
I know.
Wow. Okay. Anything else you'd like to say about what the babies are saying as they come in before we get to dragons? I want to talk about dragons.
I think there's so much appreciation for this work, and it's not appreciation of me, it's appreciation for all the people that have the open-mindedness to doing this kind of work and taking this experience of being a human to this next level. And we're just going to be so much more effective. We're going to learn so much more. We're going to make the changes we need to on the planet. And there's just a lot of appreciation to listening. The big word, the big message I'm receiving just kind of right now in the moment is listen. If you listen, we'll communicate and talk to you and give you the wisdom that you seek.
Yeah. So beautiful. I remember listening to you on Wisdom Conference, and I think you were talking about an incoming soul, talking about the way they wanted their bedroom to be, because, it seems trivial, like colors and stuff like that, but it's all energy, right? And they wanted to surround themselves with an energy that would be more conducive to who they were coming to be. And they were choosing.
Yeah, I had a few pictures, because we don't think about that. We decorate to our own personalities or something baby and fun. And I remember the pictures that I actually put those together not long before I talked, because I was sitting kind of listening. Okay, what messages do you want me to put forth here? And my example was a musician coming, someone that had been a musician through many lives, and music was their life. And they came in, their nursery I think it was a football nursery that I showed. It was all sports and everything. And you wonder why the baby's crying all the time. And then I said, well, how happy would they be if this was the world they came into, and there were guitars hanging on the wall and records? And if we can either open ourselves up to it or meet with somebody that can do a reading for us when we're bringing a baby into the world, just again, it's that the term that keeps coming to my mind is lay out the welcome mat. I know you, I see you as an individual, the individual that you already are. I'm recognizing that you're not a blank slate. Like so much of humanity thought about babies for so long. They come, they're a blank slate, they don't have memories. And that's just not true. They have personalities and lots of memories. And there are so many wonderful ways to make them feel really welcome and loved unconditionally for who they are.
Yeah. As far as the blank slate goes, I think that as we're evolving as the human consciousness, that veil of forgetfulness, as people say, the veil is getting thinner. So children are coming in with more conscious awareness of where they've been in other experiences, either in past lives, future lives, or other planets or other dimensions of experience. They're coming in with more conscious connection and memory. Yeah. And they're more connected to their mission. Words, using words, but to their desire, like what they want to do and achieve from being here in this experience. And I don't know, maybe I just remember when I was young, running a spiritual group, the conversation was constantly, who am I? What am I supposed to do? Who am I? And now the kids are like, I know exactly who I am and what I'm here to do. So it's a different energy, isn't it, Jill?
It really is. And I think they're just going to take more control.
Yeah.
Just they're not going to put up with, being told you're not thinking clearly, or
Right.
being told that it's just your imagination. I think they're just not, they know what they're here to do, and they're not
Yeah.
going to put up with that. And the more parents can nurture who they really are, the happier and the more quickly we'll move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Bless their cotton socks. All right.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard that before. I am not going to forget that one. That is the cutest thing I've ever heard.
Australians have so many silly sayings.
Is that an Australian thing? Oh my
I
goodness. I love it.
I suspect. All right, let's talk dragons. So
Okay.
what took you to Africa? Why did you go there?
It's so exciting. What's really exciting about it is, so my history in this life with knowing my dragon really only dates back a few years ago. But now that I'm writing the book and my journey and I'm channeling my dragon's messages, I'm learning so much more about our history together, which is really, really exciting. But, I met him. I was at a dinner. I was at a little mini conference, and I was out to dinner with one of the attendees, and she started talking to me about dragons. And it was the first time I had ever heard anything about the fact that dragons were actually a real entity. And as I was walking back to the Airbnb, a little voice in my head just said, I'm Landon. And that was like, it was just flowed so much from there. I started talking to him, learning from him, getting sign after sign after sign that he existed and was here to work with me. And so I started reading about dragons and learning about dragons. And that's when I learned about healing the land and the work that the dragons are here to do with us. And I was reading a book, and there was an exercise in it where they wanted you to print out a map of Africa and color it and do a whole ceremony around healing the land in Africa. And I had never even dreamed of going to Africa. I mean, I love animals and the safari sounds wonderful, but it was this way off, maybe someday thing. And so I went through that ceremony in my kitchen, and it was so powerful. And then not long after that, I was at a retreat, and the woman that owned the company mentioned that they were going to Africa with an organization called Just Like My Child that works with young women. And I just knew I was going. And it was such a crazy, far-fetched thing. But I went up to I didn't know the date. I didn't know the cost. I didn't know anything about the trip. And I walked up to ask somebody what it was all about. And I wanted to say, I'm thinking of going to Africa, or I want more information about Africa. All that would come out of my mouth was, I'm going to Africa. It was like I was possessed. There was nothing else I could say other than I'm going to Africa. I went home that night, got in bed, and told my husband, I'm going to Africa. And he said, oh, of course you are. But it was very clear to me within about an hour of finding out I was going. Landon was very clear, we're going to work and heal the land. And so the work I was able to do there with the thousands upon thousands of dragons that were there with me, and then the story after story of how powerful it was and how beautiful it was, and it was just magic.
So how long ago was this? What's his name?
I went to Africa in December 2018.
Okay, a couple of years ago. What's his name?
19, 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
What's your dragon's name?
Landon.
Landon.
You know what's really funny is I knew of him and was working with him and talking to him for a couple of years. And I decided just for fun to Google Landon the Dragon.
Uh-huh.
And there's a book called Landon the Dragon. And the Beanie Baby from Thai, his name is actually Landon. But I knew none of this when he introduced himself to me. So I'm thinking, you must be a pretty darn famous dragon to have all these things named after you here. But
and a great sense of humor. So you went in 2019.
Mhm.
And for people that don't understand dragon energy, let's explore dragon energy. What is dragon energy, and how does it heal the land? What's going on?
So, from my perspective, one thing about the dragon energy that I find is the love is so incredibly powerful and unconditional. Like, it's, for me, maybe just because I'm more open to the dragon energies in all my work with my guides and my angels and ancestors, the dragons, the love has brought me to tears more over and over and over again, because it's just so beautiful and so powerful. And anytime there's negative energy somewhere in the land, in a place, from anything, from violence that happened there, even from the filming of a violent movie, anything that has happened, there will be negative energy. And the dragons they can work with that. The fire dragons can burn up the energy, and the air dragons can blow the energy and mix up the energy, and all the different dragons can come in and help clear the energy. And then there's the ley lines, which I am no ley line expert. I just go on faith, but I know that's one of the things that we do when we do our work, is work on healing those lines of energy that go throughout the planet and clearing that negative energy. And it was powerful work in Africa, because especially when we went on safari, because of so many things that happen on a nature preserve, the poaching and the murders, and so much to be worked with. And then we had a lot of rioting not long ago, and I was able to work with the dragons on working in the big cities where there had been a lot of rioting. And it's just clearing out that negative, heavy, awful energy and lightening it up and making it go away.
Oh, darling one, I'm hearing you. I'm thinking about what's going on in Australia, how we could be evoking some dragon energy. Mind you, it's calmed down a bit now, but, a couple of months ago, with all the riots and the police shooting rubber bullets and all that, I don't know if you've seen any of that on social media. Yeah, we could be doing evoking some dragon energy. So how does one evoke dragon energy?
Just needs to think about a dragon.
There you go.
You just need to think about a dragon. And the more interested you get in it, there's different types of dragons that can do different types of work. There's dragons that clear obstacles for us. There's dragons that help with the flow. There's protection. Dragons offer protection. So if someone was interested in learning about it, there's different types of dragons that do different things. And all one needs to do to have a dragon by their side is to think of a dragon.
There you are.
And there they are.
Yeah. So you can call on them like, oh my God, I've got the Chromecast on the television, right? And it has the pictures that come up. And as you were talking about dragons before, there was this bridge in an Asian city that was like curved like this with these and now there's this thing that looks like scales of dragon scales. Oh, it's so funny what's going on. It's like they're having this massive joke with me today. Like
they are, and they love dancing and joyous music. Like, the louder I play my music in my car, the happier they are. They love the joy, and they're funny, and they're just so relatable. In fact, when I met Landon, I said to him, I think you're red, but I'd love some validation that you're red. I want to know that I'm getting the right picture. And I was on my way to pick up my stepdaughter from her mother's house. And on the way home, she says to me, look at that license plate on the car in front of us. And the vanity plate on the car in front of us was "Chill, Jill." And it was a red Corvette. And so I said, okay, so you're red and you're totally badass, apparently, because you're a Corvette. And it's funny because I've had some amazing experiences where he look over here, look over here. I had one day when I was driving and everything red was just so vivid. Like, all the other colors just faded away. A guy with his shorts and the red lights and the red cars, everything that was red was just so vivid, and all the other colors were so dim. And he was just there and sending me all of his beautiful red love energy. I mean, they're just wonderful. and they can help us with animals,
Uh-huh.
the pink dragons. So the pink dragons can help you tell an animal that you're harmless. Like the pink dragons can help
Ah.
you relay harmlessness. And I've used that. We actually had a goose that was in our neighborhood in the cul-de-sac that was stranded, very unhappy, and had been there for a whole day. And so I brought in the pink dragons to have her trust me, and I was able to get her water, ended up being what she needed.
Uh-huh.
And she was able to get rehydrated and fly away and hopefully find her flock. But
So you can evoke and call on the dragon energy just like you can the angel energy. I'm feeling a real connection between the angels and the dragons. I feel like they're kind of one and the same in a way.
they're very connected, and angels, and there's certain archangels that are connected to certain dragons.
Right.
You can learn about that
Yeah.
have their, they have their own dragons that they work with, and the energies are very similar. But yes, I actually have some Rachel Cooley. We do a lot of talks together because she's an angel practitioner, and
Uh-huh.
they go hand in wing.
And
Right.
wing. Yeah.
Hand in claw.
So Jill, do you think that dragons were a reality on Earth as a physical being at one stage? Do you
I
think it was?
absolutely 100% believe that.
Yeah.
I do.
Do you think they'll return?
Yes,
Do you?
I do, actually. I do. In fact, in some of the writing I was doing just this morning, Landon was telling me about the excitement in the dragon realm as the human race was evolving
Uh-huh.
and becoming what they were to become on the planet. And there was a lot of excitement around that.
Why do you think they left physically the planet? Ask.
Because we had to learn to do it on our own.
Right. Oh
The
my
message
God.
that I'm getting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That hit me right in the guts, that one. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. I'm getting so much messages about that question. There's like a whole realm of beings that are saying we all left for various reasons, like the Fae and the leprechauns and all the mystical
Fairies.
creatures. Yeah, we all became invisible to the human experience for many reasons. Yeah. Yeah.
But if we can practice and vibrate and change our vibrational level.
Right.
I mean, same
Mhm.
thing with the aliens. There's so many people that can
Right.
see aliens because they're vibrating at the right level to do
Exactly.
that. And we can do the same. It just takes that desire and practice and just wanting. But that's definitely, it's interesting that you're getting the same message. They all had to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't leave energetically, but they left
Yeah.
the physical experience, and that we couldn't perceive them through our five senses, but they're here. They're just, we can't see them through those senses. We have to develop we have to raise our vibe. So how did it change you going to Africa and doing all that work? What happened when you got back? Did your husband say, "Who are you?" when you got back?
No, because I've always been, this journey has been a process even before I went to Africa. So I would say, honestly, spiritually, it didn't change me a lot. It made me a little more calm about my journey. I got to meet the woman that had been training me in that other life. And it was neat because whole entire freaking trip, nothing. I thought maybe I'll get to meet her, maybe I won't. Went through the whole entire trip. I thought, well, I guess it just wasn't meant to be. And on our last day, we stopped at a hospital, and up walks this nun. And I had told my friend that I was there with about it. I said, that's her. And it didn't feel anything like I expected it to feel. There wasn't any anxiety. It was just so calm to be with her. And I said just a few words to her because we were all there meeting her. She's the administrator of the hospital. And then we were standing outside the maternity ward. I didn't know if it was okay to go in. I wanted to go in. And she walked right up to me and said, "You need to go in." And so I got to go in and do the tour that I was telling you about and meeting of all the women. And then we were on the bus getting ready to go. And I said, oh, I want to go say goodbye to Sister Angela. And even though she'd said just a few words to me, when I walked up to her, I said, I just wanted to say goodbye. And I hugged her and she held my hand and looked me in the eyes and said, we will meet again. So I know she felt it too. I don't know to what extent. I don't know what she knew, but she knew that we would meet again.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Absolutely.
So I came back just calmer about my work and my experience, because there was confusion around, why do you need me?
Right.
Why can't you all just go to Africa and heal the land on your own?
Right.
And I had a specific experience at a school. It was pouring rain. And I was standing looking out on this soccer field in the pouring rain, and I was calling in the dragons. And I was asking that question, why do you need me? And they all just gathered and they actually all bowed. And it wasn't a you are the dragon master, but it was you are just as big a part of this work as we are.
Uh-huh.
And I can't explain it, but I knew it in that moment. They made me understand. And it was so beautiful. So just a lot more confidence. And
okay, so they're answering that question. Why do you need me? Because they vibrate at a higher level, a level that our physical senses can't perceive. In order to affect the vibratory rate of the denser energy, they need someone that vibrates at that energy level, a human, someone. And they're bowing because you're helping them do their work. Without you, they can't do it. Without the physical, I won't say you personally, but without us, the fleshy in the flesh suit that are vibrating at this physical density. Yeah, because this is the density that they're affecting as we shift. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So they're bowing because you're helping us. You're answering the call. You're helping us do this work. Yeah,
that's what it felt like. I think. Yeah, thank you for that. Even puts it even more clear. It even makes it clearer.
Yeah. So that's with anyone that's doing, spiritual work like ley line work and activations, and all of us here doing that sort of global work. So how does the dragons dovetail with the work that you're doing with the prenatal, like being the prenatal medium? How's that dovetailing? Is there a dovetail there?
There's really not. I mean, I haven't found a connection, and I always have my dragons with me. I always have Landon with me, but honestly, no, I don't feel the connection yet. It's such an interesting question. I'm wondering if you're getting anything around that, because.
Well, I'm kind of asking. I'm listening. But I'm listening to you at the same time. There is a connection. Definitely there is a connection. Okay. Here's what's happening. Here's what's coming through. Right. Many of the children are coming in specifically to clean up those denser energies. And that's what they're doing. So that energy, yeah. Yep. I don't know. I'm getting a lot of clarity on it. So, you communicating with the parents, that is helping the incoming soul, that's kind of bringing that same frequency that is like that dragon frequency that will shift global energies, because the children coming in are much more globally focused. They're not coming in because I want to be a rock star and be famous and make money and be successful and experience the earth plane for my personal journey. They're coming in service to the shift, the global journey. So yeah, there is a huge connection there. Yeah.
And don't you feel like that's just the direction we're heading?
Right.
With all these new incoming souls, is the global energy and the we're all one mindset. It's going to be so much clearer. Me as Jill won't be here for it, but I'm just so excited that I know in the future it's going to be so much clearer.
Yeah.
That we are all one.
I had an interesting morning yesterday morning, sort of stomping around the house, chatting with the mob and in my head, in my mental capacity, and then talking to them and sort of in a bit of a frustration energy. And what I got was, we are at this precipice point in our human evolution where what is happening on Earth, and I won't go into details because we all know what's happening, is asking us to make choices based on what's good for the collective versus what's easiest for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a difficult choice, because what's easiest for you means, you keep what you have and you can do the things you've always wanted to do. That's the easier choice. But then the greater choice is that good for the collective. So there's this real energy now where we're being asked to think outside our little box, and to think more globally. So that's like, we're so, as humans with an ego, we're so used to feeling separate and thinking about, me and my life and what's good for me and what's easiest for me, and forget everybody else. Everybody else.
I do writings with one of my guardian angels, free writing, and he made it very clear that the children that are coming are going to be incredibly a part of this shift, and that they're going to start communicating telepathically. And when you're doing that, it's harder to pretend that we're not all one collective.
Yeah. Well, that's been happening. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Indigo. That's Stephen Simon. I've had him on the show, beautiful producer. And Neil Donald Walsh made about the Indigo children who are all on the telepathic web. They're all talking to each other telepathically across the world, and the internet exists on this telepathic level. And so that was made over 20 years ago, but that's becoming more and more just greater, because there was a few of them then and there's a lot more now. And it's a fascinating little movie. It's about this little girl. Have you ever seen it?
No, I'm going to definitely check it out.
And Neil Donald Walsh actually acts in it. So you know who Neil Donald Walsh is? The creator of the Conversation with God books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he acts in it, and he does quite a good job. He plays the little girl's grandfather, who's this really grumpy, sad person. And this little girl is just really, I know, it's really fun, really tapped into the telepathic web and speaking to all her friends and drawing them and stuff. And that she's just considered to have a good imagination. And and she knows what's going to happen before it happens. And it's a cute little movie. I love it, Indigo. But so there's more of that happening, with the kids coming in.
It was wonderful.
All right, where are we? Piloting. So you're also a pilot. When did that start? When did you start flying planes? What sort of planes?
That started with when I reconnected with my husband. We knew each other in high school, like I said, and we reconnected, and he's a professional pilot.
Oh, there you go.
We had a small airplane in our life, and I was immediately hooked. I said, well, we're going to be flying the kids around in these airplanes. I would like to learn how to find an airport and land the plane in case anything ever happens to you. I took one lesson and that was it. I said, oh, no, I'm getting my pilot's license.
Right.
And soloing in an airplane, it's such a beautiful, fun experience just being up there.
It is, isn't it?
With the dragons. And it's a lot of fun. We have had a couple of airplanes. We don't have an airplane right now after the move. It's the wildest story, one of the wildest stories you'd ever hear. I won't go into it because it's not really the subject of your podcast.
Doesn't matter. Tell us anyway.
So we had a smaller airplane, and then we traded up to a larger airplane, a 6-seater, and we had started talking. We found out we were moving to Texas. And we just said one night, maybe it's time to let our partners buy us out of the airplane. Let's start having that conversation, even though it was going to be hard to let it go. How do you have one set of partners in California and one set of partners in Texas? The next day, a man strung out on drugs crashed through the fence of the airport, raced in his car down the runway over to where our airplane was parked in a hangar. He crashed into an airplane 50 feet in front of our hangar and drove that airplane into our hangar, totaling the airplane he hit, our airplane, and the airplane in the hangar behind us.
Oh my God.
The craziest thing. Nobody was hurt. And as we stood there that night looking at these mangled airplanes, I just said, well, if you're going to see your airplane all smashed, it's on the ground is the best place to see that having happen.
Absolutely.
Because so many things can happen. And I just really felt like maybe one of those 3 airplanes, they were older airplanes, might have had something wrong with it.
Right.
And the man that did that could have saved lives.
Right. There you go.
And what a soul agreement.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've been doing a lot of work around that because my father was killed by a drunk driver. And when I was able to make that journey from he did this to us to
he did this for him,
for us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a thing to sacrifice your own life to help another soul make their transition out of their life. Such a whole nother conversation, but you know, this man, whatever, who knows what the agreement was? It was such a fluke freak accident that the thing happened.
So the drunk driver that smashed all the airplanes, did he die? Did he?
He did not.
He did not. So he went to jail?
His car was in the middle of all these mangled airplanes, completely smashed, but in what we would call the cockpit of the car where he was sitting was completely intact.
Wow.
He walked out of it.
Wow. What, did they put him in jail? Like, what happened to him?
For a couple of days.
Right. Okay.
We didn't, you know, our partners talked about finding out and if somebody needed to be sued, but that's just not us. Whatever happened. And the insurance gave us a check and we came to Texas and bought our house. I mean,
exactly.
It was all in divine timing and nobody was hurt.
Exactly. My daughter's little house was burnt down during the Australian fires, year or 2 ago, 2 years ago? When was it? And although it was tragic and she lost stuff, she had never, ever had any money. She was always asking me for money. And the government gave her a bit of a payout. And her dad also started a GoFundMe campaign and all these people. So for the first time in her life, she spent it all now, but for the first time in her life, she had a bit of money in the bank and freedom. And she's always crying out for freedom and like, I want to travel, but I haven't got any money. And so all her dreams came true, but it did take burning down it burnt down a whole lot of places. But yeah, it was her being caught up in the tragedy of the fires. But in hindsight, it wasn't really a tragedy. So it was kind of an answer to a prayer. So it was really interesting, right? How this
and that happens to so many people. They ask the universe for what they want. This is what I want. They put in their order, but the path to get there, they don't always understand. This could be the path to get you what you want, and you will see. And you have to have faith, and you have to have healthy detachment around how it happens and what happens, and it's the path to happiness.
Yeah,
to have that little bit of healthy detachment.
It's the human journey. It's the ride of life. It's the ride. It's why we come. It's such a incredible ride. You know, from the perspective, I often chat to the mob over there, the people, from the perspective of spirit as they watch what we go through on earth, and we're all suffering over what we go through. They're going, wow, that looks like so much fun. I want some of that. Like, wow, I really want to know what that experience is like. Yeah, so it's a very different perspective. Yeah.
All the things we get to experience with the body.
I know.
Get to. Yeah.
Yeah. Darling one, it's been such an amazing ride with you today. Where are we going to go with this? I think we'll probably leave it there. So the work that you're doing is working as a prenatal medium, apart from talking to dragons and flying planes. You could do that all at once. Fly a plane.
I'm writing a book called Dragons in Uganda.
That's great.
Piece of what I'm doing right now. And I do dragon workshops occasionally. I'm just kind of starting to grow following there so that when the book comes, people will be ready for it. But yeah, loving my prenatal medium work and just opening up to it and doing as many readings as I can. And
what were you doing? I was going to ask you where you were in Africa. So you were in Uganda, which is actually fraught with, there's a lot of places fraught with negative energy. My daughter went to Uganda a few years back and got into trouble there. It's a pretty messy place. It needs a lot of cleaning up. energetically.
Yeah, the organization that I went with, it's called Just Like My Child, and just wonderful. They have the girls in classes and they learn how to fight against violence, all kinds of different violence.
Wow.
And they're making a difference. And now they're in India too. They've
Just Like
started.
My Child, is it? Is that an English company?
I believe she's from San Diego, and started her work in Africa, and they have a big operation in Uganda, and now they have a second woman running part of the organization in India now. So they're working to fight against the child brides and things like that.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
doing
because
good
my
work.
daughter was with a company that she was teaching in school over there. But it was a UK company, I should say. It was a different company. I can't remember what company.
Yeah.
And what were you doing before all this stuff happened? What was your work before? Because you said that.
I was in events. So I was a disc jockey in weddings, and then I was a corporate event planner, and I put on big corporate events, and was a wedding planner. And then I was a bridal show producer.
Wow.
So when I first started coaching, I'm a business coach now, like you mentioned earlier. That's my part-time work. And when I first started, I was mostly coaching people in the wedding and event industry, wrote a book.
Okay.
And but now I'm just taking a complete turn because I know which direction I'm supposed to be headed.
Dragons, babies,
Dragons
flying.
and babies.
Dragons
All
and
about the
babies.
dragons and babies now. And you've made the connection between them so eloquently stated now that it all just makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Oh, well, blessings on your work. Thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you so much for being on the show. And your website for people that want to find you is?
You know what? Our website is under construction right now. It's normally higherhealing.com. So honestly, the best way to reach out to me would probably be through Instagram. It's very easy. It's Jill L. Stein. So there's an extra L in there for my middle name is my Instagram handle. I also have a Facebook group, Dragon Connection.
Oh,
so
Dragon
the
Connection.
dragon part that excites you.
Yeah.
You can go there and poke around on the web. You'll find me.
Okay, so under Jill Stein, not Jill Stein Clarkson. Jill Stein. It's probably
Jill
the best.
Stein Clarkson is my main name on Facebook. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, I am there. That's my private page, but I'm open to meeting anybody that's interested in all of these wonderful things. And
beautiful.
Would love to connect.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. This has been a joy.
Another amazing conversation with the gorgeous Jill Stein Clarkson, or Jill Stein. Oh God, we just had like another 40-minute conversation after I turned off the recording. And I said to her so many times, well, I wish I had the recording still going. She was talking about her husband. I was quizzing her about him. I guess that when I ask more personal questions, I usually do it after I turn off the recording. But she was saying how on board he is with all her, newly found awakening abilities. And he's really into it, even though he's a businessman, he's really into it. And we were talking more about Africa and her meeting a lion in Africa and communicating with the lion telepathically and feeling what the lion feels. And yeah, it was just amazing. Should have had the recording still going, but she's lovely. I'll get Jill back on the show. She's doing great things. I asked her a few questions that she couldn't answer because she's writing the book with Landon, the dragon. So I said, well, ask Landon and put that in the book. So the conversation will continue. I was just quizzing her about dragons a bit more in depth. And she's like, oh, I haven't asked that question. I'll ask him that and he can share some more information about that. But it'd be a fascinating book. Landon, the dragon. I was saying to her before we turned the recording on, talk about synchronicity. You should have seen the images that were coming up on my television as she was talking about dragons. So pertinent. But in my tribe on the Inner Sanctum, we have a chat group on Messenger. Someone had posted picture of a cloud in the sky that looked like a dragon, said, "Look at the dragon in the sky." And then somebody had made a reference to the Game of Thrones thing, like don't call out Draconin or some word. Anyway, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then they were posting YouTubes about the dragons in Game of Thrones, because I haven't watched the Game of Thrones series. I attempted to watch the first one and I just couldn't get into it. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone in the world's watched it. And I'm like, what is this thing that people are watching? But maybe I should try again. So anyway, and there was this YouTube thing of all these dragons. And so dragons were all in my consciousness last night, not even connecting that I'd be talking to Jill and we'd be talking about dragons this morning. And the synchronistic nature was just amazing, because we were all talking about dragons yesterday. And then we are talking about dragons again today. I'm going to call on the dragons and work with their energy when I see density and stuff that needs cleaning up. Why don't you do that too? Like, call on the dragon energy as you, they're saying it's more about collective energy than it is about personal energy, but it's that energy that's left behind when there's been conflict, any sort of conflict. I'm just getting this vision of a dragon, like the dragon I saw in the YouTube video yesterday, with the fire and burning everything and just burning away the old so that new growth, like Mother Nature spoke to me after the Australian bushfires. She said, I love my fires. I love my fires. She said, if only you humans could love the fires in your life as much as I love my fires. And I said to her, why do you love the fires? And she said, it burns away all the old debris to give room for new growth. And then she showed me this image of all the trees sprouting and all the new growth after the fire. And as I drove through the Australian bush a few months after the fires, it was unbelievable, the new growth, and in the dark ashes, all these bright green, and the trees that were black all the way up and burnt all their tree. They had little green shoots all the way up, like all the way up their trunk, just like exploding with new growth. It was amazing. And I thought to myself, wow, yeah, learn to love the fires in your life. Learn to love the fires like Mother Gaia loves her fires. So, yeah, the dragons have that sort of fiery energy, don't they? Mind you, as Jill was saying, you can have the water dragons and the air dragons and the fire dragons. They work with the elementals, don't they? They work with the elemental energies. So, yeah, call on the dragons when you feel like you want to clean up some collective, dense energy where there's been a lot of hatred and war and stuff. Clear away the old debris to make room for new growth. I loved that conversation with Jill. Isn't she fabulous? Yeah, as I said, I met her through the Wisdom Conference I did with lots of other amazing teachers. I did think to myself I would reach out to a few more of them, but Jill was the only one I've reached out to so far. I'm booked out until March next year now for the show. There's so many people to talk to. Yes, but I'm not going to say too much more. We got to have some breakfast. Haven't had breakfast yet. But let me know what you thought and let me know what you think about the dragon energy, or do you speak to souls, incoming souls? I've spoken to quite a few. I remember my little nephew who was born on the day, September 11, on that day, 20 odd years ago, when the towers came down. He was born during all that fiasco. He came to me, his soul came to me, his spirit soul, before he was born, showed himself to me, showed what he looked like. He'd actually come to me in dreams too. I'd seen him in dreams, but I thought he was a girl because he was so pretty. He was this pretty little blue-eyed baby. He looked like a cherub. And then when he came to me one night, I was sitting up in bed, awake, conscious, and I'm like, you're not a girl at all. You're a boy, because I told my sister-in-law, you're having a girl. I was completely wrong. I said, you're a boy. And he goes, yeah. I was like, but you're so pretty. Anyway, I rang her straight away the next morning and I said, I spoke to him. He's a boy. And she was a bit like, crazy sister-in-law. Crazy sister-in-law. But he had a message for her, and he said they were wanting to move. They were buying a house and they couldn't afford a house. They wanted an apartment. And he said, please buy something where I can have some land. Like, I don't want to be up and high. I want to be on the land. And She wanted to ignore that. And she said, we can't afford a house. That's not going to happen. She wanted to ignore that message. Even the crazy sister-in-law said, I'm talking to the incoming soul. But they actually did do it. They bought a little house that had a little bit of land. So yeah, they did do what he asked them to do. And years later, as I say, he's 20 now, years later, when I told her about that, she has no memory of me saying that and relaying that message. Anyway, he's spectacular. I love him. He's a total rebel. He's one of the new kids. He's 20. He's an artist. He's incredible. I told him that he's an alien from outer space. It's here to uplift the world. He thinks that's hilarious. He thinks I'm mad too, but he listens to me, and he's so loving and beautiful. But I knew when he came in on that day that he was here to affect change in a big way. He doesn't think so yet, but he's one of those new children. Beautiful soul. All right, I'm going to go. Love you all big time. Come join our little tribe, our Inner Sanctum tribe, where we talk about all this stuff and explore all different avenues of consciousness and energy and being deliberate in creating our reality here on Earth, as we can interact with each other here on Earth in this physical world, and our reality in other dimensions. We can interact and play with energies in other dimensions, ET energies, dragon energies, angelic energies, souls, spirits, dead relatives, incoming souls. It's all available. It's all available to all of us. So come and play with us. And remember to check out the book Awakened by Death if you haven't already. Love you big time. Bye for now.